We go. Hi, everybody. It's Leslie Denny, and I hope you're doing great today, having a really nice day. And thanks for joining us at Yoga Oceanside for Stretch and Release. So let's go to the mat, and I'll tell you everything that I have for you today. Got an interesting session for you lined up today. I actually think about these things. And there's a couple of things that I wanted to share with you. The first thing is a little story that I thought would be kind of cool. And it ties into kind of the practice that we're going to be doing today. So the story is about, you may have heard of this story too, is because it's pretty famous. It's Franz Kafka. He was a Czech author that lived a really short life. He only lived to be 40 years old. And he was really a gifted author, almost like a philosopher. And if you've never read any of his writings, it's really worth reading because he writes so, what I like to call, with some authors, accessibly. You know, you read their stuff and you just fall right into what they're saying. It's almost like they're standing in front of you talking their story. And that's what I loved about Kafka's writings. And so this story, and I'm going to read this to you, so pardon me looking down at my paper, but at 40 years old, which means very close to the end of his life, he had never married and he had no children. And he was walking through a park in Berlin and he met a girl who was crying because she had lost her favorite doll. And she and Kafka searched the park to try to find the doll and were unsuccessful. So Kafka told her to meet him there the next day and they would go back and start looking again. The next day, when they had not found the doll, Kafka gave the girl a letter written by the doll saying, quote, "Please don't cry. I took a trip to see the world. I will write to you about my adventures." Thus the story began, which continued until the end of Kafka's life. During these meetings, Kafka read the letters of the doll carefully written with adventures and conversations that the girl found adorable. Finally, Kafka brought back the doll, he had bought one, that had returned to Berlin. And the little girl said, "But it doesn't look like my doll at all." Kafka handed her another letter in which the doll wrote, quote, "My travels have changed me," unquote. The little girl hugged the new doll and brought her home. A year later, Kafka died. Many years later, the now adult girl found a letter inside the doll. In a tiny letter that was signed by Kafka, it was written, "Everything you love will probably be lost, but in the end, love will return in another way." And I thought, gosh, you know, things change, life changes, people change. And sometimes we need to learn how to let certain things go because that's the way life goes. But it almost feels, you know, mournful sometimes when we tether ourselves to holding on to something that's so important to us. But all of a sudden, when we surrender to the fact that maybe it's not ours anymore and let it go, it has this beautiful ability to be able to lift the stress from our shoulders and lift the stress from our life. And that stress component is really what this practice is about today. So I did a lot of research to find out key areas for stress relieving with doing a massage on your body. What would you do for these certain areas? And today's called a stress relief massage. And we're going to be starting with our hands a little bit to begin with. Of course, you could use a ball if you want, but it's much more effective to do certain points with your hands. And then we'll be gradually rolling different areas of the body for our practice today. And hopefully by the end of it, maybe if you have any stresses that you're holding on to today, you can let those go and just embrace where you are at the end of your practice. So let's come to a comfortable seated posture. And just take a few deep breaths. And in that space, just see if you can connect with a word, thought, or sentence that really resonates with you from the perspective of letting go what doesn't serve you. We all hold on to things that don't serve us. It's just sometimes a thing that we do. And yet, the moment that we give ourselves permission to say, I don't need to worry about that. I don't need to hang on to that. I can let it go because something better will come to replace that once I let that go. That begins to open the doorway to relieving stress. So just take some really deep breaths here. I used specifically that bowl because that tone resonates with the third eye chakra. And that's that internal wisdom that we have. And then if you do have an oil that you like to use, go ahead and place that on now and take a nice deep inhale. Good. And then as we begin our practice today, what we're going to be doing is trying to relax the facial muscles as much as you can. That's hard for me to do because I smile a lot compulsively. And so what we need to do is try to relax the facial muscles as much as possible. And the first thing that we're going to massage is our scalp. So get ready to fluff up your hair. So just with the very ends of your fingers, just kind of rotate the ends of your fingers around the crown of your head, kind of, and notice that I've got them like in little, like, I don't know, little fingertip points like that. And I'm just really rolling the fingertip points in a very small circular fashion all the way around my head. So I went from the top, I went down to the sides, I'm going right to the back portion of my head and just continuing to massage those fingertips into the crown of my head. And you can see that when you start to do this, sometimes your face just naturally begins to relax. Feels really good. Of course, it feels really good when somebody else does this for you, but you can do this for yourself. Good. And then as you release from there, the next massage point will be the earlobes themselves. So you're just going to grab onto the earlobes and just kind of massage. I like to hold on to the front of the lobe and massage my thumbs in a circular fashion on the back of the lobe. So just relax there. Just massaging right into those points. And then just at the inside of the upper portion of your ear, that little divot point right here, massage your fingertip. You know, so you can use your index fingers or wherever you don't have a nail digging into your ear and just massage circularly there. And as I turned, I see all these little footprints of cat that have come onto my mat. You know, usually it's not etiquette to walk on somebody's mat, but I guess Merlin doesn't know that. And just keep circularly massaging. You don't have to press your fingers like they're going to go into your head, but you can just go really light when you're doing that massage. And then the last point that we're going to go from here is the third eye. Remember that tone resonated with the third eye, Anja? So you're just going to take 2 fingertip points and right at the space between your eyebrow, rest the fingers there and circularly massage. And you can go in one direction and then another. So if you're taking notes, I'll go over this real quickly, this first little inception point, because the next time that you have a really stressful day or a discussion with somebody, or maybe you're working right now and job just, there were issues on the job or with your family or your kids, whatever it is, this is a wonderful little quadrant of technique to try to release tension, and then relax from there and just take a few deep breaths. So what we did was we fingertip massaged the skull all the way around the scalp. Then we did the earlobes here, and then the inner, just the top of the inner ear right here, and then the third eye points. So that is a wonderful thing to do, and you can do that actually in the middle of your day if you need to just say, okay, I need to take a moment and do that massage. And you can feel almost there's a lot more circulation flowing throughout your facial structure, throughout the head, maybe into the shoulders. But that is a great beginning to your stress reliever. So the next point that we're going to go is into the shoulder points. So we're going to be using the block to rest the hips on. And if you're not comfortable with that, you don't have to worry about it. And we'll definitely be taking the small balls out of the tote. I hope you like this practice today. I was really giving it a lot of thought over this last few weeks. I've been working on it. You would think, God, Leslie, this is like you had to take 2 weeks to work on it. It was just a lot of thought that I had to give to it. It's not like it's rocket science, although sometimes we pretend in life that we are rocket scientists. You're going to be taking these smaller balls halfway between the shoulder end to the base of the neck. So halfway point. You'll feel if you run your fingers forward, you'll feel that little dip point where the clavicle is, the upper portion of that collarbone. And so what we're doing is we're just going to move it back so that they are pinned at the shoulders and then lifting the hips. So as I press the balls right into that point, I'm just going to lift my hips and rest my hips right onto the block. And you can make any other little adjustments that you need to if you feel like you need to dig it in deeper. But remember, it's just kind of the points of the top of the shoulder. Once you get there, you should feel no tension at the back of the neck. Yeah, everything should feel neutral. And you're just going to first initially relax yourself into that point. Now, one little tip is that if you're home or in your own little private studio, you could actually rest your hips on the block against a wall and then rest your legs against the wall. And that would be a really nice stress reliever for those legs. Because sometimes, I don't know about you, but I'm on my feet, but it's sometimes seated at a desk that my legs get really tired, my hips get tired. So that little posture can feel really nice. So we're just relaxing right here at these pressure points at the top of the shoulder. We're going to call these the shoulder points. And taking some deep breaths. And then just reach the right arm up and overhead. Only go to the point where you feel that's enough. You're not trying to press it so that it's all the way overhead. You want to feel a good firm compression, but not a painful one.
And then you're just going to bend the elbow, draw the elbow out to the side, and then the arm back up and overhead. What a lovely beginning. Now, kind of take an assessment. Can you take a deep breath here? And also, do you almost feel any like pinching or extreme discomfort or burning? If you do, reposition the ball a little bit. But what many times we start to feel is a lot of release through the head when we do this, thus stress relieving. And then just do that one more time there. And then rest that hand back into your lap and reach the other one up and over to the point of pressure point that is good for you. And then bend the elbow, draw it out to the side and up and overhead. And just keep repeating that motion. Try to keep your face as relaxed as possible. So if you're squinching up your face and going, then you want to reposition the ball or not move the arm as far overhead. Good. And then relax that hand back into your lap. With the next inhale, take that right arm up and overhead. You may notice that you have a little more range. And then circle it all the way around. There's big, big circles. And you can cross that arm to the opposite side a little bit if you like. Just really feeling that motion of the balls kind of really pressing in towards that shoulder, but should not be painful. And then relax the hand to the lap. Reach the other arm up and overhead and circle it around. Those big circling motions. And don't forget that if you like to play a little music while you're doing your practice, feel free to do that. I stay in quiet here just so there's not a conflict if there's something you like to listen to. And then relax that hand towards your lap. Take a couple of deep breaths. The balls have not moved from that original shoulder point that we pressed them upon. But with the next breath, you're going to reach the arms straight out in front of you, clasp your hands, and then circle those arms around. And now we're starting to inject a lot more shoulder movement to move the balls a little bit. So you can feel them just kind of massaging right into that upper shoulder area. And I'm not going in a huge circle. And then reverse the direction that you are going. Good. Then from here, see if you can take the arms a little higher overhead. That's not a dare. Just go to where you can. And then shrug the shoulders up and down. So this is a point where you really need to Stay focused on making sure that you're not over compressing. If you're over compressing, you're going to start to feel it and you're going to want to pull away from it. And remember, the whole idea of this practice today is stress relieving. So you want to be very mindful of what feels like you can handle it and what really feels like you're starting to push it. Should be able to handle this very well. And then draw the arms straight out in front of you. Take the hands nice and wide and begin driving your big steering wheel. Going from left turn back into right. And just back again. Good. And then relax the hands towards your lap. Let's take a couple of really deep breaths. And then when you're ready, move the balls out of the way. And then move to releasing the block. And just rest on your back for a moment and just take a few breaths. Good. Then roll yourself over to one side or bring yourself to an upright seated posture. And check in. See how you feel. You might feel a little lightheaded just because we did a lot of like that partial inversion and a lot of pressure points towards the chest. But just give yourself a few breaths, maybe replenish with oil, get a drink of water, whatever you need to. And then let me get my little balls here. Now the next portion that we move into, and you can see that we're gradually going to be moving down specific areas in the body, is the chest. And instead of trying to position ourselves flat down to the mat, we're just going to give a light roll. Let me move my mic down a little bit so you don't hear that. But we're just going to roll right into the chest. And I'm mostly staying at the upper portions of the pectoralis muscle, this area right up in here that goes in towards the upper arm. Just keep breathing nice and deep. Anytime that you need to take a break, just feel free to do so. And you could certainly stand up and do this on the wall. The nice thing about doing a stress relieving practice is if there's any way that you can lessen even the slightest intensity, it makes a big difference in trying to release that tension while you're trying to. Because it may be that when we were talking about it being like in the middle of your day, something like that, well, you're not going to be doing it for very long. You may not carve out an hour to be able to do this whole thing. You may just do small components of it. But even if you did it just boom, boom, boom all the way through your body, you're not going to probably spend more than about, 10 minutes, actually, maybe 15 minutes if you have that time in the middle of your day. So you don't want to stress yourself to try to make it happen. Whatever you can do to keep it as easy as possible. And I'm just massaging right here, taking some deep breaths. And then switch it to the other side. Just roll, roll, roll. Not feeling like you're forcing a lot, but just really enjoying it.
Good. And then release from there. And again, just relax your hands out towards your knees and take a few deep breaths. Good. How do you feel so far? I hope this feels good to you. I feel really good about it. So I'm feeling physically pretty darn good. So the next place that you work is moving into the forearm. And we've done this before, and sometimes it's a little tricky getting into the forearm to not create stress. So I'm going to take my block and I'm going to raise it on the highest level I can. And I'm going to use my large ball. And I'm just going to gradually rock the forearm. And I'm doing this portion of my forearm right at about the wrist. And I'm going to move up towards the elbow and then back down again. And then we'll be doing the top surface, the anterior surface as well. So I'm just going to kind of leverage a little bit of weight there. And again, notice that initially I lifted my hand up. I'm relaxing the hand down. That's what I need to do, is really think about the areas where you're tensing up a little bit and see what you can do to let that go. Maybe a little modification of your posturing, maybe repositioning yourself a little bit. All of these can make a big difference. So I'm just really going with the strata. I'm moving with the grain of the muscle here. And then I'm going to move the block in a little closer and go about mid forearm for me, just in another small range of motion. And again, I need to relax that hand down. I keep tending to lift it up. I do that with my toes and my hands. I tend to lift them up, and that creates unnecessary tension. So I can relax that and just keep rolling from here. Focus on your breath for the next few moments, and I'll be quiet. Good. Then, whoops, last portion is very close towards the elbow, and just really relaxing the arm down and just massaging. And then release from there. So now we move to the top side of the arm, and it just seems like that alone, I can feel my shoulder is a little more relaxed and dropped. So it feels very good to me. And I just wish we had a dialogue going on right now so I could know how you're feeling too. So I'm going to flip the hand around, but I'm going to start from the close point where my elbow is, just below the elbow. And I'm just going to rest the hand down again, keeping that open palm down. That was a little harder on that little narrow spot. And just roll up and down. Let's try to keep it. Small range of motion allows you to control it so that it doesn't flip all over the place. That makes a difference. And then bring it down a little farther so you can bring it closer in if that helps. And just keep massaging there. You could do this at a tabletop too, or your desk. Oh gosh, to do the forearms and the wrists and this union space between the thumb and the index finger is so helpful with relieving tension throughout your whole body. It's just one of those hot spots. And then draw it down a little bit farther. And just relax as you push into it. Notice if you're fighting any battles inside your mind. Sometimes when we do a repetitive thing like this, we let the mind start to wander, and then we start thinking about the things that are causing us stress. I want you to try to let all that go if you can. I know it's hard, but just every time one of those thoughts creeps up, just say, you can go away for now, and I'll see you on some other time. Good. And then you're going to flip and go right to the wrist joint and massage right there. And at this point, if you feel better having a little bit more leverage point by lowering the block somewhat, you can sure do that. Good. Then the last place that we're going to go after we finish the forearms is to go right into the palm of the hand. And you're just, notice that I'm not putting a super amount of compression, but I'm massaging all over the palm and in that little space at the union junction between the index finger and the thumb, and then to the base of the thumb. So I'm massaging all throughout there. So many of us are using our computers, desktops, laptops, our tablets, just all of these devices, so much more than we ever have before. And so that alone would dictate that you carry all of this load of stress in your hands and your arms just from managing those devices. Your cell phone, I know that when my hand is constantly working my cell phone, it's just like my arms and my shoulders and everything starts to tense up. So this alone is just a wonderful experience for your body. Good. And then release from there, and then just check in. Just relax your hands towards your legs and just feel maybe the difference from one shoulder to the other, and take a few deep breaths before we switch to the other side. Good. If you want to get a little water, feel free to do so, or a reload on your essential oil. So we're going to switch it to the other side and start at the wrist. And this is when we're just massaging, small range of motion right here. And then we're gradually going to begin to work our way up that forearm to the elbow. And then when we flip it over, we start from the elbow and work down to the wrist. And then give our wrist quite a good little massage. And then go ahead and bring it up a little bit higher. And it doesn't matter whether you circle it clockwise or counterclockwise, or you just switch it off. That's fine too. Just whatever is going to allow you to get into a rhythmic motion that isn't distracting and yet keeps you nice and calm. And sometimes learning something the first time is difficult to stay calm, but if anybody wants this written up, I will definitely send it to you. So if you're interested in having this one just so that you can remember the whole thing, you're more than welcome to access it, and just let me know, and I'll go ahead and send it back to you. And then go ahead and bring it up a little higher and massage right into that forearm. But what's funny is that the one piece of feedback that I get a lot is that a lot of people like to do the ball practice with us. So that helps you do it even more. And then go ahead and bring it up towards that elbow. If you can hang on to it, like I'm not doing a very good job of, but that's okay, because I'm not worried about that. I feel pretty relaxed, and it's just, my little body is flinching all over the place trying to hold on to this on my little arm, but it all works out. And then once you get up towards that elbow, go ahead and flip it this is a little trickier. I'm gonna actually lower it quite a bit. And just let your arm rest in, relax the hand, and rotate. You may feel more comfortable like seated at a desk or at your countertop to be able to do this. And then gradually bring the ball back down. You're headed towards the wrist and that forearm. Hand relaxed, taking some deep breaths. And then moving it right down towards that wrist juncture where it meets the hand, and just trying to keep the hand as relaxed as possible and your body as relaxed as possible. Your breath is nice and even. Thoughts are not clouding you to distraction. But just if you have those little errant thoughts, they just bubble on through and move on. And then from here, flip the wrist and massage right into that wrist joint. And as we begin to move into the palm of the hand, position the block any way you choose, if you're using that, and just really nice, lightly massage the ball into the palm of your hand. And you can get right into that little union space between the index finger and the thumb, and then go to the base of your thumb as well. And just keep nice, light pressure. Sometimes we feel like more pressure is better pressure, but I know that from living life, that less pressure is really better pressure. So your ball practice can be that way as well. Okay, and then once you finish from there, just go ahead and rest the hands into your lap and just take a few deep breaths. Just notice how you feel first on that physical level, just how things are feeling. And then do a little check-in to your mental and emotional spaces and see how they feel. Typically, when we do this type of practice, just things start to lighten up and get better and better all along the way. So hopefully you're starting to really feel a release of tension. And maybe you didn't even feel tense when you started your practice today, but you're feeling the benefits now. I sure hope so. So as we move into the next phase, it's the calves. And believe it or not, we do the calves a lot, but the calves are a hot spot for stress. So when the calves are relaxed, we feel more relaxed. So just go ahead and just lightly pop either side of whichever calf you choose to start with. And this is going to be a much different roll than what we usually do. I know that most of us feel like we're crawling up the wall when we do our calves because it is pretty tense, but we don't want to go to that direction. We just want to kind of allow ourselves to let go a little bit at a time. And then you're just going to take either the large ball or one small ball and just place it behind the calf and lightly massage. So let me turn to the side so that you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just holding the ball and just lightly massaging into the calf. I'm not placing any pressure on it. I'm not resting it on a block or the ground. I'm just lightly massaging because, again, this practice is about stress relief. And we don't want to be feeling stress in order to get to the relief side. you want to keep pretty relaxed throughout this whole practice today. And as I roll through there, I'm going to go a little deeper down into that lower portion. And there might be areas where I go, yeah, I'm feeling some stuff right there. So I'll just hang out there a little bit and go even lighter on my pressure. And just keep circling that ball around. And then start bringing it back up the leg again. Just nice and light. And it should feel just really good. Good. Then once you finish rolling the backside of the calf, then we're going to go to the inside medial edge. So I'm just going to take the ball and I'm just going to roll right there. Again, nice and light, nothing pressuring, just kind of taking it easy. And how easily could you do something like this in the evening? Because, you know, when you're starting to maybe go to bed, if you pick up a lot of calf stuff when you're trying to sleep, maybe you went hiking or walking a lot, or just had a lot of things that you had to do that your calves are very tight. Well, this nice light rolling massage is so wonderful. And what I've always found is that we're such a group that just collectively, all of us, you know, that we feel like if this feels good, then if I go harder, it'll feel better, right? And certainly at certain pressure points, the relief is just insurmountable. It feels so good. But for this type of a practice today, the stress relieving practice, you want to go light and you want to stay nice and even. And you don't want to feel like your body is having to work to try to accommodate the roll. And then just flip it to the opposite side. So we're working to that anterior side, just the actually lateral side here. And working more towards like the tibialis, the anterior tibialis. And just light massage. Continue working your way up and down that lower leg. And I know that when I feel this starting to relax, I feel my knees starting to relax, because my knees give me, they're never painful except for rare occasions, but I need to work on them constantly to make sure that they don't start to get tightened up. And this is just such an easy way to do it. Just a little bit more roll right there. And then release from there and come to your seated posture. Well, I can tell you right now, that knee just drops down so much more. The shoulder feels a little lower. And I'm feeling really nice. I feel like my jaw's nice and loose, my facial muscles, the scalp feels relaxed and tingly. So let's try that to the other side. And just really lightly pop the balls on either side of the calf. Very unlike what we've done in prior sessions, if you've been with us in prior sessions, especially when we tackle the calves. And certainly there's something to be said about going vigorously at times, but not in stress reduction. When you're trying to do strictly a stress reduction roll, you want to try to keep everything as relaxed as possible. And then just put one ball to the side and start just lightly rolling to the back of the calf. And I like, you know, you could sit up against the wall if your back starts to bother you, to give yourself a little more support. But I like doing this instead of stretching the leg out onto the block or the floor, because that really leverages that gravity weight of the leg down onto the balls, which changes the intention of what we're doing in this segment, this particular practice. All the way up and down. Getting into what may be a little bit more tender spot down in the lower portion where it narrows into your ankle. And then come to that inside area. Just slightly massage there. That there's always a surprise when you start to massage certain areas that almost feel like they're tender. But the work is in just staying as relaxed as you can on this segment. We usually laugh about the fact that we go through a lot of pain to find peace. But today is really about those stressful days that come along in your life where you feel like you've lost a lot or things aren't working the way that you would like for them to work. And you start to build this stress, and the stress can exacerbate and reflect in other areas like creating physical tension, emotional reaction to things. Yet when we start to go through a role like this, what we have today, it really changes everything, and it starts to make us feel just so much better. And then take it to the outside. And I'm just going to roll right on that outer portion of the leg, lower leg. And it's nice, light roll. Nothing super deep. And it also, with rare exception, unless you're balanced with a big ball and block, have a little bit more control of the ball. And just keep doing that a couple more times, and then we'll go to the final spot. And again, if you'd like a kind of a recap of this for me to email it to you, you just need to let me know, and I'll send you the list of areas that you're working so that you can do this again. Good. And then release from there. Come to a seated spot and just relax. So the last portion that we're going to work is we're going to do the feet, but we're going to do a very specific portion of the feet. Usually when we do the feet, we do a big roll, and then we go from portion to portion throughout the feet, and we do deep compression, controlled but deep compression to try to open things up. This particular spot is a little different. I want you to feel at the bottom of your feet, and you're feeling between the big toe and the first toe. And then just slide your fingertips down, and at the base of the ball of your big toe to the inside, in that space between those two toes, there's almost like you can feel the juncture that it dips in and starts to move on to the base of the next toe. That's the spot of compression that we're talking about. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to actually stay in our seated posture and just press the ball right there. Normally, we would stand up to do the feet, but remember, we want to keep at a lower stress level. And sometimes when we stand up to load the ball onto the foot onto the ball, then we start to tighten up because we do feel the tension. And from here, you're just going to waggle your foot from side to side. And I'm actually using my hand to move my foot. If I do it with my foot alone, I've got a lot of muscle that has to work, but I can manipulate it a lot easier with my hand. And I'm just moving the foot from right to left, massaging in that very single spot. It's not going anyplace else. This is believed to be a meridian point that actually can help in the reduction of stress as well. It affects other areas of the body, but it really is a great pressure point to work at. And each one of these were like little pressure points that you think about working throughout the body to try to relieve that tension. What's happened on an anatomical level is we've lightly released a lot of the connective tissue. And remember, it always is being felt in other areas of the body. So whatever you release in one spot will definitely be felt in other spots. And just roll, press and roll a little bit more without pushing too hard. And then switch it to the other side. And just find into that pressure spot. And then just let that foot move from right to left. Just nice and easy. And it feels so satisfying often to feel a release like this. So just take a few more deep breaths. Good. And then release from there. So in our practice today, we started from the skull with just manipulating hand massage. We worked into the earlobes and then into the top of the inside of the ear, and then the pressure point of Anya, the third eye. And then we began to work into shoulder points. And then we did the forearms and the palms. And then we worked into the calves and the soles of your feet at a very specific point on each foot. And that hopefully helped release a lot of stress and tension throughout your body. So go ahead and roll it into your posture for Shavasana. Take a couple of deep breaths. It was a very light, intentional, stress relieving session for today. It's a practice, and I hope you enjoyed it. And then once you get into that relaxing posture, let's take a couple of deep breaths. I'm going to play this little tone. This is our third eye tone to bring yourself into that calm. And then when it's time to come back, I'll come for you. Take a deep breath. Just do a little check-in before you rise to an upright seated posture. And then when you're ready, go ahead and bring yourself to that upright seated posture. And take a few deep breaths. And let's draw our hands to the heart center. And back to our story of Kafka. Everything you love may be lost, but love finds a way of returning in another way. There's constant influx of love coming back into our lives from different sources. And sometimes the greatest source is the love that you express upon yourself. And you took such great care of yourselves today. And I hope you feel really wonderful as you head out. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining us today here at Yoga Oceanside for Stress and Relief. And I will look forward to seeing you next time. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye now.